You've seen the headlines: rents up, supply down, people priced out of cities they grew up in, the whole country arguing about why nobody can find a place to live. So let me show you something that is going to make you genuinely furious. There are fully built cities, move-in ready, complete with highways, hospitals, shopping malls, and apartment towers, where nobody lives. Not because of a disaster, not because something went wrong, but because the people who built them assumed someone would show up. And nobody did. Skyscrapers with the lights off, 8-lane highways with zero traffic, malls with escalators running, and assumed construction would create demand. It almost never does. 4. Wrong location. Ghost cities are almost always built somewhere inconvenient. The ghost cities wait. Lights on timers.